15% of men in this country say they don't have a single close friend. In 1990, that number was closer to 3%. Think about that. In one generation, it didn't merely rise, it multiplied. That isn't a quirky social trend. It's a slow-moving emergency, the kind that ruins lives quietly until the damage is done. If you're watching this, there's a decent chance you're part of that 15%. And if you are, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to talk to you like a man talks to another man when the room is empty and the truth finally fits. I'm 88 years old. I spent 38 years driving freight trains for Union Pacific. I've crossed Wyoming in the dead of night with nothing but the engine's growl, the snow in the headlight, and my own thoughts for company. I know what silence sounds like. I know what the dark feels like when you're alone in a cab at 2 in the morning and the world is just rails and distance. So when people tell me they're alone, I understand the word. But I also know there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. I learned that difference the hard way, because I nearly died before I figured it out. My wife, Dory, passed away 6 years ago. We were married 54 years. We weren't perfect, but we were real. We built a life the old-fashioned way. Years of work, years of routine, years of showing up even when it wasn't romantic. And when she died, I discovered something about myself that embarrassed me more than any mistake I ever made on the railroad. I didn't know how to be alone. That sounds ridiculous coming from a man who worked solitary shifts for decades. But I realized I'd never truly been alone, not in the way that matters. Because no matter how empty the cab was, I always had someone to come home to. I always had Dory's voice in the kitchen, her footsteps, her habit of asking if I'd eaten, her way of noticing the world and folding me into it. Here's the truth. She ran our social life. She remembered birthdays. She kept track of anniversaries. She knew the neighbors' names and their grandkids' names. She made the calls, planned the dinners, and nudged us into the kind of community men often don't build for themselves. My contribution was simple. I showed up when she told me where to show up. I shook hands, I smiled, I ate the food, I drove us home. I thought that counted as having a social life. Then she was gone, and what was left wasn't just grief, it was emptiness, the kind that makes the air heavy. My sons live far away, Texas and Oregon. They have their own lives, their own jobs, their own children, their own bills. They love their mother and they love me, but love doesn't teleport you into a living room at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. After Dory died, I sat in my recliner and watched television for almost a year. Not because I enjoyed it, because I didn't know what else to do. I ate like a teenager. Scrambled eggs, cereal, whatever didn't require effort. I lost 22 pounds. My doctor looked at me and said, "You're killing yourself." I told him, "I know." I meant it. I wasn't being dramatic. I just couldn't see a reason to fight. I didn't have plans. I didn't have a routine. I didn't have anyone to call and say, "Hey, can you come by?" I was a man with a roof over his head and no one inside his days. But I'm still here. I'm 88 and I live in this house by myself. And I'm not waiting to die anymore. Something shifted. It didn't happen in one inspirational moment. It was more like waking up one morning and realizing that if I kept living the way I was living, there wouldn't be much life left to live. So I want to tell you what changed. And if you're lonely, whether you're 25 or 65 or 75, I want you to hear this like it's aimed directly at you, because it is. First, I had to learn the difference between alone and lonely. They aren't the same. You can be in a crowded room and feel like you're underwater. You can be by yourself and feel calm. Loneliness isn't a head count. Loneliness is a relationship problem, specifically the relationship you have with yourself. I know that sounds like something a therapist says, I'm not a therapist. I'm a railroad man. But I'm telling you what's true. Think about it this way. If you were forced to spend every hour of every day with one person for the rest of your life, what kind of person would you want that to be? You'd want someone honest, not cruel, but honest. You'd want someone who tells you the truth without trying to destroy you. You'd want someone encouraging, someone who believes you can do better and helps you see a path forward. You'd want someone forgiving, someone who doesn't drag your worst moments into every new morning. That person has to be you, because here's a fact we don't tell boys when they're young. You are the only companion who stays from your first breath to your last. Every other relationship has an expiration date, even if you don't know it yet. Parents die, friends drift, children move away. A spouse may pass first, or may leave, or may change in ways you didn't expect. The world rearranges itself, and sometimes you're left standing in the new shape of it. But you will still be there, in your own head, in your own skin, every morning when you wake up, and every night when you try to sleep. And if you don't like the person you are alone with, you will spend your life running from solitude. You'll fill silence with noise. You'll chase distractions. You'll cling to people who don't treat you well because being mistreated feels better than being alone with your thoughts. That's where I was. That first year after Dory died, I couldn't stand the quiet. I turned the television on the moment I opened my eyes, not because I cared what was on, because I needed sound to drown out my own mind. My thoughts were brutal. They were full of regret, things I should have said, years I worked too much, moments I missed, mistakes I made. They were full of self-criticism, like a foreman barking at a worker who can never satisfy him. What I realized, painfully, was that I had outsourced my emotional life to my wife. She was the one who reassured me when I doubted myself. She was the one who softened my edges. She forgave me, encouraged me, reminded me of the good I'd done. When she died, those functions didn't magically transfer to me. I didn't know how to do them. I was 79 years old, and I had never learned how to be my own companion. So I started learning, and the first step was the simplest and the hardest. Tell yourself the truth, not the kind of truth that's just self-punishment, not I'm worthless, not I ruined everything. I mean plain truth, accurate truth, the kind you can build a life on. I had to admit that I wasn't always the father my boys deserved. I worked long runs. I was gone for days. When I came home, I was tired, and tired men are often emotionally unavailable even when they love their kids. I didn't go to every school event. I didn't always listen the way I should have. I provided, yes, but presence is different than provision. Facing that didn't help me if it turned into a beating. It only helped if it turned into clarity, because you cannot be comfortable with someone who lies to you, and that includes the voice inside your own head. Then comes the part most men skip. You forgive yourself. You say, that wasn't good enough, but I was human. I did what I knew. I can own it without living inside it. Forgiveness is not denial. Forgiveness is refusing to chain yourself to the past. If all you do in solitude is replay your failures, you will hate solitude. And if you hate solitude, you will chase escapes, alcohol, porn, endless scrolling, gambling, loud rooms, bad relationships, anything that gives you relief from yourself. That's not toughness, that's avoidance. I had to learn kindness toward myself, which sounded soft to me at first. I'm a man who worked derailments and blizzards. I've walked tracks in weather that would make most people run indoors. I don't scare easily. But learning to be gentle with myself was one of the hardest things I've ever done, because men are trained to be harsh. We're taught to man up, to grind, to ignore pain, to treat our feelings like weaknesses. There's value in endurance, but there's a difference between being tough and being cruel, and many men are cruel to themselves in ways they would never be cruel to another person. The second thing I learned, you have to become someone you respect, not someone the internet respects, not someone strangers admire, someone you respect when you look in the mirror and there's no audience, because you will live with yourself, and if you don't respect who you are, your own company will feel like a prison. How do you build self-respect? You do hard things. You keep promises to yourself. You stop making excuses that make you smaller. After Dory died, I taught myself to cook. I was 79 and I couldn't do much beyond eggs and canned food. I bought a cookbook and started with simple meals. I burned things. I undercooked things. I ate some disasters, but I kept going. I learned to roast a chicken. I learned to make stew the way she used to. I learned vegetables that weren't from a can. That wasn't about food. It was about competence. It was about proving to myself that I could still learn, still adapt, still take care of the man living in this house. I also started walking every morning, no matter the weather. And in Wyoming, weather isn't a cute word. It's wind that bites your face and snow that tries to knock you sideways. But I walked anyway, 2 miles before breakfast, because I made a promise to myself, and keeping that promise changed something in me. When you break promises to yourself, you lose trust in yourself. When you lose trust in yourself, your own mind becomes an unreliable place. But when you keep promises, you build internal stability. You become someone you can count on. The third thing I learned, you need a reason to get out of bed. Not a reason that impresses people. Not a reason that earns applause. A reason that matters to you. A purpose, even if it's small. For me, it became model trains. That might sound childish, but listen, I spent 4 decades on the railroad. The rhythm of rails is in my bones. Building a model layout in my basement gave my hands something to do and my mind something to solve. It connected me to my life's work in a way that felt warm instead of painful. When I'm down there measuring track, wiring lights, building little towns, I'm not lonely. I'm engaged. I'm creating. I'm using my brain. I'm moving forward. Human beings aren't built to sit and rot. We're built to work, to build, to contribute, to improve something, even if it's just our own day. When you stop doing that, your body notices, your mind notices, your spirit notices, and you start dying before you're dead. I saw that in myself. When I was in that recliner, I wasn't just sad. I was shutting down. My appetite faded. My strength faded. My interest in life faded. That wasn't poetic. It was biological. When I started walking, cooking, and building, morning stopped feeling like a punishment. I still miss Dory. I still do. Grief doesn't vanish. But the loneliness stopped crushing me, because I was building a relationship with myself that I could live inside. Now here's the part I need you to understand. Learning to be alone is not the same as giving up on people. There's a temptation, especially among lonely men, to decide that relationships are pointless, to say, fine, I'll just be alone, to turn pain into isolation and call it independence. That is a trap. What I'm saying is different. You need to be able to be alone so you can be with others in a healthy way. Because if you cannot tolerate your own company, you will cling to anyone who offers you attention, even if they treat you badly. You will accept scraps of connection because the alternative feels unbearable. When you can be alone, you gain choice. You can choose your relationships instead of needing them like oxygen. That changes your posture in the world. You become calmer, less desperate, more yourself. I have friends now, not a huge circle, a handful of good men. We meet at a truck stop on Del Range for breakfast on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There are 6 of us old-timers. We drink coffee, complain about politics, talk about weather, Talk about whose knee hurts today. It's not a therapy session. We're old men in Wyoming. But it's connection, it's routine, it's community, and I can show up without begging for approval because I'm not empty inside anymore. I'm not using them to fill a hole I refuse to address. I did the work first, so the friendships can be simple and real. Men often make friends through activity, work, projects, shared routines. We're not always good at sitting down and opening up. You don't have to become a different species, but you do have to make effort. You have to show up somewhere repeatedly. You have to talk to strangers. You have to accept awkwardness like a fee you pay for a better life. I almost didn't go to that first breakfast. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 20 minutes trying to talk myself out of it. I was 79 and scared of walking into a room of strangers, scared of looking foolish, scared of being rejected like a teenager. But I went in because I knew the alternative. The alternative was dying in that recliner and being found days later because nobody had a reason to check on me. One practical thing helped me more than any big speech. I treated connection like maintenance, the way you maintain a machine. I wrote a simple rule on a notepad. 2 contacts a week. Not 2 deep friendships overnight. 2 contacts. A cashier I spoke to like a human. A neighbor I asked a real question. A veteran at the diner I thanked for his service. I practiced small talk like a skill because skills improve with repetition. I also chose one anchor place and showed up there regularly. I didn't wait until I felt confident. I went even when I felt awkward. I asked simple questions. How's your week? What do you do? Any good news? Awkwardness fades. Consistency remains. Small conversations are seeds. You water them by returning. The diner, the same hour, the same days. Familiarity did the heavy lifting. Faces turned into names. Names turned into greetings. And greetings turned into invitations. That is how community is built when you start. If you're a younger man watching this, I want to say something directly to you. Don't let loneliness turn into bitterness. I see it happening. I read what people write. I watch men turn their isolation into anger at women, at society, at the world. I understand the anger. Loneliness hurts. It's not just sadness, it's a physical stress. Researchers have compared chronic loneliness to serious health risks. Your body treats social disconnection like danger. So yes, the pain is real, but the answer is not hatred. The answer is not blaming everybody else for the hole you're in. The answer is to become a man capable of connection. That means being honest, being kind, being reliable, contributing more than you consume, taking responsibility for your habits, learning to listen, learning to show up, learning patience. Connection takes time. Friendship doesn't appear overnight like a delivery. Trust is built by repetition. You show up again, you show up again, month after month, year after year. That's how it forms. I've been truly alone for 6 years now. Alone in a way I never was in the first 79 years of my life. And I can tell you this, it's survivable. More than survivable. There's a peace in it that surprised me. I wake up when I want. I eat what I choose. I work on my trains. I take my walks. I answer to no one but my own standards. There are worse fates, but I had to earn that peace. It didn't come from luck. It came from building routine, discipline, and self-respect, and then stepping back into the world with enough stability to connect without desperation. So here's the question I'll leave you with, because it's the question that saved my life. Are you going to sit in the recliner and wait to die, or are you going to get up and live? I sat for almost a year before I decided. I hope it doesn't take you that long. Dory used to tell me I was too stubborn to quit. Turns out she was right. I'm 88 years old. I'm still here. I miss my wife. I miss my old life. But I'm not waiting to die anymore. And if you're lonely right now, you don't have to wait either.